My name is Yaniv I'm here to study successful innovation professionals and uncover the mindset and models they use to de-risk the future. On this podcast, I invite fellow professors, practitioners, and entrepreneurs to have an honest conversation about the business of innovation. No more bullshit. We talk openly and honestly about what works and what doesn't. So come on, get your ass in that seat. School's about to start. Luca Seletto, how are you doing, man?
Very good, thank you. What about you?
I'm pretty good, given the situation. No complaints.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've come to realize that the fact that we're here and that we're healthy, that says a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Healthy, let's say, pretty working, so it's not bad, let's say.
Yes, exactly. So a quick disclaimer for the audience before we start. This is the second time that we're recording this conversation because someone, and that someone is me, screwed up the first time and recorded bad audio. And so I guess I'm twice as grateful to you, man, for getting on this call for the second time.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, it's nice to speak with you.
I appreciate that. So, listen, we have a lot to talk about, and I thought we'd just sort of dive in. You are the the hub manager for Enel Innovation Hub in Boston?
Exactly.
Okay. And for those people in the audience who haven't heard about Enel, don't know about Enel, what's your quick pitch? What's Enel?
Well, Enel is a global power company. We operate in more than 30 countries. We are one of the largest electricity operator in the world. And we operate both in generation, distribution, and commercialization of energy. I work in the innovation team, and let's say a few years ago, we decided to have a physical presence in the best innovation ecosystem in the world. So we start develop our network of innovation hubs. The first was in Tel Aviv, followed by the one in San Francisco, then in Madrid, in Russia and South America, and the last one that we opened was Boston in June 2019. And let's say that we operate slightly different compared to other corporates, because and this is something that let's say makes people surprised sometimes. We do not make investments, so we do not have a venture capital arm. But in our collaboration with startups, our main focus is the commercial collaboration, the industrial collaboration. And the role of the hub is to work together with the networks of the locations of the hub to identify interesting startups, interesting technologies that can collaborate with the different divisions of our group.
Gotcha. And I just have to ask and latch on to that one thing that you said about Enel not being a VC, not having a venture capital arm. Why is that? Like, that would make sense, I guess, for a lot of other corporates or enterprises. Why not for Enel?
Well, it's a strategic approach. So we decided not to invest because for us, the greatest value that we can get from a collaboration with a startup is the collaboration itself.
Yeah.
So we operate as a partner. So we prefer to make available what we have in terms of resources, infrastructure, customer base, to reach a kind of win-win situation. And which we do what we have to do. So we act as a power company, so producing power, distributing power, and the startup do what is good in doing, so providing technologies. And I think that is what actually startups need. I mean, they need a market because clearly investment is the base. It's very important to let startup grow, but then startup need to get money. I mean, need to get customers, need to make revenues. And so we think that the best support that we can provide is through commercial agreements. So we always identify a technology. We understand, let's say, how we can work with this technology, how can fit with our specific needs. And usually after first phase of test of pilot, our final aim is to deploy it on our infrastructure, on our activities, and so on. So with many startups, we have, let's say, agreements and relationships that last since years, and we become also a partner for additional developments, because obviously they can propose us a new solution on which they are working. We can provide feedback, and we can keep growing together. And so we realize that this actually is the best support that we can provide to startups.
Yeah, I think. Do you think it removes friction from the process, I guess?
What do you mean?
So let me rephrase that. When you are trying to strike a partnership with, and I guess it's sort of a double-sided partnership, because I guess you're working with the startups, but you're also working with the venture capitalists who perhaps have invested in the startups. And so by not taking an investor role, okay, and not having the money or the equity, all of that sort of mess, basically on the table, like bringing that into the relationship, you're essentially removing friction from that whole, I guess, funnel, if you will.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we are actually not competitors of VC funds, but partner. We collaborate with many around the world, because obviously we can represent a very interesting partner for companies of their portfolio. Mm-hmm. So obviously, and since we are not interested in investments and so on, we can represent a very good partner for the growth of their portfolio.
Yeah, exactly. So from the other side, if I put myself in the shoes of the startup, right? Here's this big corporation that wants to work with me, and so if that corporation starts talking to me about equity, right? That might introduce some friction. I might be a little hesitant to become a partner of that corporation. But if that corporation says, look, we don't want any of your equity, keep everything. We just want to give you access to our, portfolio of clients, our markets, our distribution channels, our, whatever, in return for, providing value to our customers, improving our own service offerings, our own products, that sort of thing, that becomes a much more attractive solution, I guess, or opportunity for that startup.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that in some cases, also having a large company as shareholder may prevent some other companies to collaborate with a specific startups, because they say, okay, I'm adopting your technology, but in your ownership, there is one of my competitors. While in this case, since we are just a commercial partner, we frequently provide like our perspective references to other corporates interested in working with startups that collaborated with us, because actually for us it's not really a matter. We say, we are working very well with the startup. We are not investors. We just try their solution, and we can confirm that this technology is very valuable.
Yeah, I want to go back to the network, right? It's a global network. In how many countries are you in right now?
You mean as Enel or as Innovation Hubs?
As Innovation Hubs.
Innovation Hub is currently in Israel, in Russia, in Spain, in Italy, in Chile, in Brazil, and in the US.
Okay, so I counted 7.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm using my fingers.
Yeah.
So you're in 7 locations. It's a pretty big network. Um, how did it start? Where did the need come from? Because obviously this is a huge investment for Enel, and I'm thinking about other corporates, other enterprises that might want to, in this situation, in this environment with COVID-19 and everything that's happening, they're thinking, this is a huge investment for us to open these innovation hubs. Um, what's the benefit and where did the need come from? Did it come from the business or from the innovation unit? How did it start?
Well, it started because we realized that getting in touch with specific ecosystems was not easy without having a presence there.
Hmm.
So we already had like a collaboration with international startups, but it was hard to have the possibility to have a continuous discussion with all the people within an innovation ecosystem. So policymakers, funds, startups, other corporates, and so on. And so we decided to try to develop our network starting from Israel. That was, in terms of innovation ecosystem, the one that was closer to us, as we are headquartered in Italy. And since we already had some scouting activities that we were running there, and so the idea was to create something pretty, let's say, pretty fast to manage, pretty easy to manage. So not having like a huge center with thousands of people and so on, but having like physical presence that can guarantee the connection between all the divisions of the Enel group and the ecosystem. So we realized that since we are not an R&D company, I mean, we run our innovation through collaborations with third parties. And since all the projects are run by our different divisions and let's say the projects can be run everywhere in the world where we have a presence. The presence within the Innovation Hub was more to guarantee a continuous relationship with the ecosystem. So let's say that within the hubs, we have usually 1 or 2 people, because their role is more to create connection, to create a network, to identify the best technologies, and to introduce them to the business divisions. So then the project can be managed all around the world where we have a need. We can select like the test facilities that better fit with what we're looking for, and really the hub can provide a real value because it can create those connections. So I think that as the value is really in keeping the relationships within the local ecosystem and then connect to the business. So the role of the hub is really to understand what the different business divisions of Enel are looking for and identify solutions in the market where they are located.
Interesting. So let's try to unpack that because it sounds like the hub manager in such a lean organization, as you described, the hub manager plays a pivotal role, right?
Yeah. Let's say the role of the hub manager is first of all, to understand what the business is looking for.
How do you do that? Let's stop here for a second. Let's
Yeah.
pause. How do you do that? Does it
So,
require building relationships within the company or already having relationships within the company with different business units? Who within the business unit do you go to primarily? Like, how do you do that? Let's focus on discovering those needs.
let's say this is a model that we developed in the last years within Enel. So the innovation structure of Enel is organized as follows. Basically, we have an innovation division at holding level in charge of managing all the different activities and to provide support to the different divisions. So within the innovation division, we have a team that is where I work in charge of managing a relationship with startups. Then another one with industrial partners, and it also has to map all the collaborations, all the projects that we run at the group level. Then we have another team in charge of fostering innovation culture within Enel. And then within each business divisions, so renewable, distribution, and so on, we have an innovation team that is in charge of understanding what its specific business divisions is looking for, and to run projects that can provide the value to the divisions itself. And so we have a continuous interaction with these teams within the business divisions. And so we work with them because they have an overview of which are the objectives of their division, which are the needs, the technological needs that they have. And so we have a continuous talk that allow us to identify those needs, to working together with innovation teams, and to provide solutions. So it's I would say that is a continued discussion, because clearly we try to identify the main needs at the beginning of the year. But then obviously there is an evolution, because in some cases, once you identify some technologies, you need feedback, you need to understand if this technology may fit with the needs. And so it's a continuous discussion. We can say that we really work closely both with startups, but also with our internal colleagues.
So you have this sort of funnel of needs that comes from the different business units. Do you prioritize it, or how do you prioritize it? Like, how do you say what's more important than other things?
Let's say that each business has its own priority level for each specific need that they have. And one of our role as innovation hubs is not only to identify technologies, but also to understand when it's the right moment to introduce it to regions. Because it always happens that when you meet a startup, they are willing to make a great pitch to the business to understand if they can run a collaboration and so on. In some cases, the problem is not that technology is not interesting, but that it's not a priority in that moment. So our role is also to manage these, let's say, misalignments. And so being sure that we can introduce an interesting technology when the business divisions is really looking for it. And so let's say that obviously we start with the high priority needs. And once those needs find a solution, we also move to different ones. And then it may happen that during the year there are specific needs that come out because of particular events. I'm sure that following this crisis and this emergency, we will have some specific needs related to the management of the new situation. And so in that case, obviously, we can also find a specific solution for specific needs, or to identify some companies, some technologies that we met maybe a few months ago, and that in this moment represent the answer to a specific request.
Gotcha. I want to talk about the I want to talk about the other side for a second. I want to talk about the startup side, on location, on site. Let's take Boston, for example, because you're there and you're doing it now. I guess there's a situation where it's a sort of a push and pull, where you are either, for lack of a better word, chasing after or trying to identify startups, right? That's sort of like the push versus the pull. that startups know about you and your hub, and they come to you saying, we have this and that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm interested to know, how do you get to that situation, and which one is the one that you're like strategically after? Are you more of a push or more of a pull?
Well, I will say both, because clearly, when I have like a need to solve, I start getting in touch with my network. I try to identify technologies that could be interesting, and so on. But clearly, it happened that let's say some interesting technologies are out of my range, so I cannot easily get in touch with them. So it's also happened that companies that just get in touch with me at events or through LinkedIn, through our website, had the technology actually interesting for the specific need I was working in that specific moment. And so that was a perfect match. In other cases, it may happen that I receive proposals that are not in line in that specific moment, but I say it may be later. So I'm trying to pushing for both, because I realize that obviously I cannot reach any company, any startup, any interesting technology, because it's pretty impossible. And so, let's say directly, obviously. And so I'm pretty open to receive any proposal. And I always try to be clear. I mean, if it's something that for which there is a specific need, clearly we keep working together to prepare like some documents, some material to share with the business. Otherwise, pretty clear. I prefer say we do not have this need in this moment. And so let's say I don't like it to keep startups waiting for a feedback that cannot receive. So I like to be pretty clear for this. And yeah, I think that both of the ways are important. So opening up and saying, hey, we are looking for this. We also have a platform that is called Open Innovability, where we publish all the different needs and challenges that we face. And so say, people and startups can have a look, understand what we are looking for in that specific moment. But also creating a network, creating connections. And I say I'm always open to receive ideas and proposal. Then I say it really depends on when and how we can manage the specific collaboration.
Yeah, gotcha. I want to touch on the pull for a second. For a startup who's, let's say, shopping around for partnerships, and I know this from the situation from the ecosystem in Tel Aviv. Startups have a lot of opportunities, a lot of options to choose from. Obviously, it depends on the ecosystem, but let's take Tel Aviv, for example. For a startup that's shopping around for partnerships, besides the fact that, let's say your innovation hub is focused on a specific, specific area, specific vertical, what do you think pulls them towards your hub? What would be, the top reason why they are pulled to your hub?
Well, I think for sure it's the dimension of Enel, clearly approaching a potential customer that has, let's say, an international footprint that operates in many countries and so on. It's clearly interesting because it can provide a very large market. I think that another thing is, and it was we try to do more and more, is also, as said, being clear. I mean, we prefer not to, keep companies in a kind of limbo, but we prefer to provide feedbacks and so on. And I think that this is important. Let's say, yeah, I think that the first thing that attracts the company is for sure the dimension of the potential customer.
Yeah.
But I think also in some cases the behaviors that this company has toward the potential partners. Let's say that obviously it really depends on where we are, because we realize that in some specific countries where we have also strong commercial presence, it's easier to get in touch with startups and technology because, let's say, people recognize you. In other countries, a little bit more difficult, and like in Israel, because we do not have a commercial presence in Israel.
Yeah.
But what we're trying to do with the hubs is exactly that, building knowledge on what we are doing, building relationships, and trying to be the right partner for startups when they really look to scale the market.
Mm-hmm. I think I would look at this, and I want to know if you are thinking about this the same. I'm looking at this as sort of a short-term versus long-term strategy, where short-term, yeah, the dimensions, the size, the sheer opportunity of working with such a big company is definitely a plus, and that's an attraction in the short term. But then long-term, what I've noticed is that if you don't create real value for those startups, real traction, real commercial deals, you put your money where your mouth is, for lack of a better word, that sort of fades away, that initial short-term excitement. Did you find that to be the case, I guess?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and this is why I really like the approach that we have. So we are not really focused on, prizes, competitions, and so on. What we look for are industrial collaborations. So I think that is also important for a startup to realize that, let's say, getting in touch with us does not mean that you will pitch a technology and maybe you will get a prize, because it's not something we are interested in. But when you pitch your solution, you're proposing something that we can implement in our business. So it's a completely different approach.
Yeah.
And then clearly depends, because, with some startups, we have a relationship that lasts since years, because the specific technology, it's something that evolves, and then we can upgrade, update, and so on. In other cases, we have projects that do not last for years. I mean, we run the project, then the project ends, and so also the collaboration ends. I mean, we have different approaches based on the specific need. This is also what is interesting, because we do not run a program. I mean, when we speak about collaboration with startups, it's not, let's say, a program in which you enter this program, you run a 6 months test, and then who knows. No, it's really connecting the world outside to our business. And so we are really trying to build relationships that can bring value.
Right. And okay, going back to the role of the hub manager. So we talked about the business side, the corporate side, Enel side. We talked about the ecosystem, the startups, and let's connect the two. When they connect and there's a good match, there's a good fit, there's a POC. And if there's a POC, do you manage it or do you step aside?
No, the projects are run by the business division, because obviously they have a clear view of what the business is looking for, where to run the projects, and so on. And also the best way to run a project, because in some cases to test the technology, you develop a POC. Maybe you need some specific developments. The project lasts X months because there are different steps and so on. In other cases, to test the technology, just maybe a couple of days are sufficient. And so we actually do not run a POC. It's more a test of the technology. And if it works, if the results of the test are good, we can directly implement it in our business. And all those information are managed by the business divisions. So our role is more to identify technologies, managing the initial relationship, and then the hand over to the innovation teams within the business divisions.
Gotcha. So before we wrap up, we are in the midst of a global pandemic, right? COVID-19. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, how is that changing your role? Like, how is that affecting what you do specifically, and what you guys do as a network?
Well, it changed because we cannot have like a face-to-face relations anymore with partners. It's a little bit more hard because our job is really keeping a relationship, meeting companies, meeting new opportunities. It's something that we are doing remotely. So let's say our activity was not really affected because we are keep looking for technologies, introducing them to the business divisions. Clearly, then we have to discuss with the startup how to manage the test, for example. Because in this moment, also some startups are not able to move to bring like equipment on testing facilities.
Mm.
It's something that we are managing pretty well. So we did not stop our activity. We are keep developing our needs. We are keep looking for technologies, and we are keep planning test of technologies.
That's great. So if people want to learn more about the innovation hubs, the network at Enel, what's the best way to do that?
Well, we have a website that is startup.enel.com, where we present our approach. We present the different hubs, and there is also a link to Open Innovability. That is a platform that we use to collect proposals from external innovators. Otherwise, clearly, I'm always open to have a chat to explain better what we are doing.
That's great. How can people get in touch with you? What's the best way?
LinkedIn is, I think, the best way. It's also easy to find me. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll put all of that information in the show notes. Luca, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Pleasure was mine. Thank you very much for inviting me.